Atari's done a great job year after year of making its Dragon Ball Z games a lot better than the year before, and the latest one, Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi, is no exception. Anyway, this new game is actually developed by a whole new team. The previous games were by Dimps, and this one's now by Spike. And they've kind of come from an action background rather than fighting. And it really kind of shows in the way the gameplay works. This is a true 3D fighting game where you move around completely destructible 3D environments. You can fly on your own now without having to worry about being launched like you had to in the past. And you can really kind of use the environment to your advantage. So the brand new design really lends itself well to the Dragon Ball Z fighting style, especially if you've seen all the anime, where they really use most of the environments in charge of the fireball for 4 episodes before they miss with it. And one of the strengths of the new game is the fact that it has the most characters of any Dragon Ball Z game ever. I don't really want to give away too many because a lot of them are surprises, but you've got all the usual suspects in there. You've got Goku, Tien, Raditz, Piccolo, all the Gohans, pretty much everyone you could imagine, Frieza, Cell, etc. And what's great about these is just like the previous games, they're entirely customizable, but now they're customizable in a much more user-friendly way. And in the past, you had to go to the store and buy all these capsules and kind of put them together that way and occasionally unlock other things. Now, whenever you do anything in the game, you unlock some kind of cool bonus that you can then use to upgrade your character in a very easy-to-access menu whenever you play the game, actually. Another big plus this year is the fact that the AI is really ramped up. Even though it's still kind of easy on the lower modes, the harder modes, and even the default medium difficulty are actually really tough. The CPU is incredibly aggressive, and they're on you from the second the match starts, and they will seriously put some hurt on you.
Wimp.
I'm also a big fan of the presentation this year. Spike has really outdone itself and pretty much ripped absolutely everything from the show that you can imagine so that it looks just like you're playing the anime. Not only do you have the true American and English voiceovers, but you also have the original Japanese voiceovers as part of the menu process as well, so that's a big plus for fans of imports. Now, one of the things I didn't like about Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi was the fact that it still doesn't support online. It would have been terrific if we actually had it for once, because as fanatic as that audience is, I don't think you'd ever have any problem looking for a guy to fight. That said, there's still a ton of very cool community options for players to get together in a house and duke it out, and there's really no shortage of things to do if you're all in one place. For instance, the World Tournament mode allows users to build their own tournament with as many players as they want, CPU or human, so that they can literally go up the ladder and fight as many matches and get an ultimate champion. You can also do the traditional dueling mode, which every fighting game has had since the dawn of time. But what's particularly cool is the Z Battlegate, and that's really more of a one-player game. But what the Z Battlegate is basically the retelling of all the Dragon Ball Z sagas through a story mode. And the way it's structured is each match has a specific goal that you have to complete while fighting. Beat a guy in a certain amount of time, use a special attack while defeating him. And those moves will then result in you unlocking the next piece of the story. The cool thing about this is that it branches so that you can follow different portions of the story as you move along. So if you maybe miss a goal or miss something else, you can keep going and go back and maybe see something that was slightly related to a previous scene once you have a better understanding of the mechanics. What's great about this is that every Dragon Ball Z saga is in there. The Android Saga, the Frieza Saga, the Saiyan Saga, Majin Buu Saga. All the sagas that you can imagine that were in the series are in the game as well. There's even a couple of bonus ones that I won't mention because that'll ruin the surprise. Needless to say, you can go out there and you can basically relive all your favorite moments from the series, and that's particularly cool for people who maybe not be familiar with all the sagas, as they can jump right in and figure out what's happening without having to be too lost. As good as the presentation is, there were still a couple of issues that kind of held Dragon Ball Z back from being as great a fighting game as, say, something like Soul Calibur or Street Fighter, some things on that level. Of course, the biggest problem is the fact that there is a noticeable camera issue when you hit the corners of arenas. Basically, it's caught behind trees and rocks, and it takes some moving and adjusting before you can actually see what's going on. So that was a bit of an issue. Another issue is the fact that when you're playing through the tournament mode, it's a little bit easy to cheese your characters out of the ring because of the small size. There's a slight way around this if you fly around the arena, but if you go ahead and charge your opponent, regardless of his AI level, it's really easy to get him out there. So make sure you play a human in that mode rather than a CPU, because that is a bit of a weakness. And of course, you run into the same problem you've run into with every Dragon Ball Z game, regardless of who's developed it. That's the fact that the moveset isn't necessarily out of this world. There is a healthy number of options and a healthy number of maneuvers that you can do, but it still isn't on the level of the typical 3D game like Tekken or Dead or Alive or anything of that nature. Also, a lot of the characters do play similarly, so if you're the type of guy that loves every character to play completely different from one another, this may not be your cup of tea. But you know, Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi is one of those games that has a lot more positives than negatives. So even though it does have a couple of issues that I've cited here, the sheer level of presentation, the amount of characters, the great level of customization that you can explore, and all its different multiplayer modes, minus online, are enough to keep people coming back time and time again, regardless of how well they like Dragon Ball Z. But even so, if you're a Dragon Ball Z fan, you're going to probably fall in love with this game and want its children, and if not, then it's still worth checking out. Kamehameha!